You're listening to Journey for Truth with internationally known medium, Tai Yi practitioner, and radio host Tami Urbanek.
Hello and welcome to Journey for Truth on iHeartRadio and YouTube. I'm Tami Urbanek. Thank you so much for joining me. Journey for Truth Radio is always on demand and with many new episodes. On empowermentthroughhealing.org, my website, if you go to the Life Energy Flow Tai Yi treatments, you will see a treatment titled Fire of the Brain. This particular treatment helps detox the brain, helps work at bringing a balance back to the firing mechanisms within the brain. This treatment is very good for people who have abused substances, who were abused in childhood, who carried a lot of anger, a lot of depression, and now they're ready to start bringing the brain back into balance. empowermentthroughhealing.org. Also, if you go to the JonahLifeInstitute.com website, you will see the new Denver seminar, Jonah Denver seminar, that is occurring in Denver, Colorado. In just a couple of weeks, you'll want to sign up before the discount deadline passes. JonahLifeInstitute.com. My guest this week is Todd Crandall. He is a former substance abuser. He is now an athlete. He's going to discuss with us his story and how he came to abuse substances, but also his journey to recovery and how his nonprofit is assisting people now. Todd, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me on today.
It's great having you on the show. Now, how did you come to abuse substances?
Well, as a licensed professional counselor and my own personal experience with substance abuse, I believe about 90% of us are coming to addiction via some type of emotional trauma that we're not quite sure how to cope with. And in my case in particular, it was the suicide of my mom when I was 3.5 years old.
Wow.
She had a drug addiction and she committed suicide. And I believe that that's really where my problem started. As you know, emotionally, I just was lost from the earliest stages of my life, and then obviously looking for a way to fulfill that void.
I can completely understand that. I've not experienced that, but I can understand where you're coming from. Now, did you witness her suicide, or this is something that a family member told you occurred?
No, this is something that obviously I have no recollection of it, and I think this partly goes to the extensive ramifications of that trauma. Is I don't have really any early recollections of a childhood until I was probably in 4th grade. My uncle too, he also committed suicide, so there is that genetic predisposition in the family with respect to suicide and addiction. But as I said previously, I just grew up feeling abandoned, lost, hurt, angry, frustrated, alone. And as any normal person would do, we're looking to ways to cope with that. And for a while, playing hockey gave me that sense of, hey, I'm okay. I found something I'm good at. It kind of relieved a lot of those feelings I was going through. But then at the age of 13, I took my first drink, and that's when all bets were off.
So in your genetic history, then, there is the substance abuse, there is the suicidal tendency. That's very difficult to deal with for anyone. Where was your father in that?
My dad did the best that he could. You know, it was really heart-wrenching, and even honestly, you asking me that question today, the empathy that I have for my father and even my stepmom today is it's huge. You know, even the further I get in my sobriety and being of service to other people through Racing for Recovery, I realize the magnitude of the impact of my choice to use drugs, what it actually did to my family. And my dad was supportive up until a point where he just couldn't handle my addiction anymore and said, I have to leave due to my own sanity, meaning my father. And for me, that could have been an opportunity to stop, but it just added more fuel to my fire of addiction, really.
Exactly. And I know that the tendency to abuse drugs and alcohol does tend to run genetically in the family. Not always, but it does tend to. And my daughter's biological father is an alcoholic. And so I was always very careful with her as she was growing up in her teen years, and now she's 23 years old. I would always very honest with her. There's this genetic tendency. Of course, you don't need to activate it. You don't need to act on it, of course, because you are your own individual. But you need to know that it's there and that there needs to be some caution here when and if you choose to drink. And I've monitored that with her. We're very close, and we live together still. So I keep an eye on that. And no, I'm not like hovering over her, how much did you have to drink? I'll see her have one hard apple cider, and then she moves on. So she's very good about being careful about that. And I've worked with many people who do struggle or have struggled with substance abuse. They have struggled with that emotional pain, that abandonment. And it takes a lot of work to move out of that hole. Is that how you felt? You were just kind of in this hole?
Absolutely. My whole life, I felt alone. I never felt a part of anything, even in my own family. The only real place where I felt comfort and at peace was at my grandmother's house. And that's not a slap in the face to my father and my stepmom and my younger brother. It's just, that's how I felt. I felt secure and comforted at my grandmother's. And I spent every weekend at her house from the age of like 6 and 7 years old, just onward. But getting to my point of all this stuff of emotional traumas, I was looking to feel good, as all human beings want to do. We just want to be loved and cared for and feel good. So I was searching for that. But unfortunately, being in an environment that it was conducive to drug usage and then making that choice, I do believe that's when that genetic predisposition came alive, and then the addiction was just out of control like everybody else's.
So as the addiction was out of control, how was that impacting your life? Were you able to work? Was it destroying your relationships? How was that occurring?
Well, when I first started, took a drink of alcohol, I was 13 years old. The second time I drank, it was an entire bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey, and I took some speed with it.
Wow. And
from that moment on, as a 14-year-old, every single time I drank, it was to the point of blacking out and getting arrested, getting in fights, having problems with grades. Your core group of good friends are starting to disassociate themselves from you. So I found myself, even though I was trying to get rid of the isolation that I felt initially, once the drug addiction escalated, I found myself being more and more isolated than I ever was before. Plus, having that hockey ability, I could have done something with hockey, and I started to lose my abilities to play hockey at the level I was used to. Educational opportunities fell by the wayside. Jobs were never consistent because I rarely showed up for work. And, like everybody else, my life was just spiraling out of control.
What was the changing point? When was the point that you said enough is enough?
Well, I just like everybody else, I had spent time in jail. I was homeless down in Florida. I had all the horrific consequences that come along with a choice to use drugs. But on April 15th of 1993, I had a blessing from God, and that was I received my third drunk driving charge. I blew a .36 at noon. So, yeah, right. I was heavily intoxicated. Yeah, it was drinking 2/5 of whiskey a day at this point, a few grams of cocaine every day, heroin, crack, the whole bit. But I wasn't mad. I was relieved that I got that third arrest. I was thankful that I was arrested, because that's when I decided to stop the self-destructive behavior. And over the past 24 years, I've been on a constant journey of self-betterment.
What is the legal ramifications of having your third DUI?
This was in 1993, so my punishment was 3 days in one jail, 30 days in a work-release jail of another institution. I believe I lost my license for a year, paid some fines, and that was it. And honestly, should I have been punished more for that? Yeah. But that was my punishment. I did the punishment and the requirements of that right away. I wanted to get it over with. And once I put that behind me, I knew I was never going to be in that circumstance again. And like I said, my life has just all been about constantly getting better on a daily basis.
Now, it's interesting, it's a touch off topic, but it's an interesting note. I was having a conversation with some friends who live in Greece. They are Greek and they live in Greece. And Greece has recently, over the last couple of years, I believe, been implementing DUIs. They call it something different, I think, over there, but they've really been coming down on drunk drivers because there were just so many accidents occurring. And so I asked them, what happens if you get pulled over for drinking? And they said, your first time, they actually take the license plate off your car. So they don't just take your driver's license, they take your license plate. So you can't drive that car. And I think jail is involved in that as well, I believe. So they're coming down pretty hard in Greece anyway. So it's wonderful to hear that you were able to just meet those obligations. Now, as you decided to change, as you decided to get clean, were you having a lot of conflicting thoughts, or was it just like this light bulb went off and said, no, I'm just going to go forward?
Great way that you described it. And I used to use that term, light bulb came on. For the first, for the first like 10 years, and even during my time as a public speaker with Racing for Recovery, I would describe it as, hey, this light bulb came on and I just decided to quit. Well, adding the spirituality component of my daily lifestyle, I've realized that, and I'm not want to offend anybody, but I believe it was God and my dead mom that gave me that switch of turning that light bulb on. And then it was my choice to put the same effort into my recovery as I was into my self-destruction with drugs, and to literally start doing something with it. So yes, it was a light bulb moment, but let's say this, that I know who's responsible for turning that light on, if you will.
That's an excellent, excellent example. We as people, we always receive guidance. We're always receiving guidance from some source, whatever source people might want to, whatever label someone might want to use. But it's still always our choice as to whether we're going to utilize that assistance. No one's going to force us to get clean. No one's going to force us to change our diet so that we can reverse our diabetes. No one's going to force us to do anything. But that assistance is always, always there. Even when people think, nope, I have no assistance, there's no one there to help me, I'm all alone. That's just simply never true. At least in my experience, in my spirituality, and what I've learned, that's simply not true. But that's an excellent point. You need to make a choice. Are you going to take that assistance?
Absolutely. I chose to use drugs and I chose to not use drugs. And just like anything else, I think the more our minds become clearer and we're drug-free, we have the opportunity, it's one of my favorite words, we have the opportunity to be cognizant of the awareness that, hey, there's choices out here. There is something greater than us. There's always a spirit and other people that are around us to help us when we're making positive choices. And quite honestly, that's what's helped me to sustain sobriety for almost 24 years now.
Excellent. Now, you have a nonprofit that assists people. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I do. Thankfully, I started a federally approved 501c3 nonprofit called Racing for Recovery in 2001. And our mission is simply to prevent substance abuse in kids and to show current substance abusers, their friends and family, and the public at large that sobriety is attainable and sustainable. And we do it through a balanced, holistic lifestyle.
So you bring in exercising and sports and those types of activities?
Yes, physical activity, as a way to improve myself physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so developing Racing for Recovery, I knew how important physical activity was for me pre-addiction, even during addiction, and then obviously coming out of addiction. But our program really focuses on a spiritual component, a nutritional component, a psychological, an emotional, a social, giving back, getting proper rest. It's like a hub of a bike tire that then is connected with all these spokes to make that wheel go round and round in a smooth fashion. it can't just be going to support group meetings all the time. Sobriety is more than that. Sobriety is about living, being content that we're not using drugs, and actually going out there and experiencing all that life has to offer.
So what kind of results have you seen? That sounds like a wonderful program.
The results that I've seen are tremendous. I just had one of my clients who celebrated over a year and a half of sobriety, who just completed his first section of becoming a licensed counselor. He's getting off of probation next week. He's working. He's playing soccer again. His family attends our Racing for Recovery support group meetings. I'm privileged to see people all around the world who have read our books or attended our meetings or done some of our events, who are literally implementing their own lifestyle of recovery that is enabling them to not only sustain sobriety, but have their families back and be productive members of society.
I really like the component that you add to that. Well, I like all of it, but I also really like the component of the spirituality, but also the physical fitness. I find it just so important to be willing to really challenge yourself to become more physically fit and to spend your time playing those sports, soccer or tennis, whatever sport someone might want to play, because it really just engages your whole body, it engages your whole being. I don't know where I would be if I wasn't able to exercise, to go to my different classes, to go jogging outside, to go hiking. I think I would become very depressed.
I concur with you. You know, I've been fortunate enough. I've done 28 full Ironman triathlons since 1999 around the world, and I not only enjoy, you know, traveling and seeing beautiful different countries and meeting amazing new people, but the physical benefits of exercise enhance the psychological and emotional and just overall well-being of everything else that we do. Exercise helps with reducing craving for drugs, depression. Mm-hmm. It's the free drug, if you will, that enhances every other aspect of our life. And it's not I'm addicted to exercise. I've taken a negative addiction and I've turned it into this new focus that exercise is a part of, but so are many other facets of my life. And that's what Racing for Recovery is about.
And that sounds excellent. And that does lead me to another question. Have you seen within your clients any of them trade one addiction for another addiction?
As a counselor, I have early on, I have had some people that have come in for my help, and they've gotten into the Ironman aspect of it. And I've told them over and over, look, this is a great thing to do, but it doesn't define you and it's not your whole life. It's one facet of your recovery. And I could tell that some of them didn't quite understand what I was talking about until they actually completed their event. And then they had nothing really to do anymore because they had put so much energy into just one area of their recovery, and they struggled a little bit. So what I'm always constantly working with people on is living a balanced, holistic lifestyle that you can do a variety of things, but they can't be all-encompassing. Mm-hmm. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. So it's getting, again, balance is a key word in my counseling and through Racing for Recovery, is how do you do everything you want to do but keep it in a balanced manner?
Absolutely. And I ask that question because I have seen examples where a person, they choose to give up alcohol because they've been abusing it, and then they turn to sugar and junk food. And while you're not going to get a DUI because you ate too much sugar, it's still going to create interruptions within the brain. It's still going to create interruptions within the body. So I'm sure that all counselors who are helping people treat addictions are aware of when people do start trading one addiction for another addiction and getting to that core issue. Is that part of your program to help people get to the core issue that caused the addiction?
Beautifully said. And that's what I think makes Racing for Recovery, and actually what my services are of counseling people, is when somebody comes into my office, they can present with whatever drug they're doing. Or if we could take it even further, they could present with any self-destructive behavior they're doing. And my first response is, I acknowledge the self-destructive behavior. Why is this going on? what is the emotional trauma that led to a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-respect, that you are now choosing some other type of substance or person or food or shopping or gambling or what have you to try and fill that void that we've spoken on previously. So we have to heal the hole in the soul while simultaneously aiding someone in building a new lifestyle that works for them.
Wonderful. What is an expectation that someone might need to keep in mind to successfully heal an addiction through your program?
What I want people to fully understand is that through Racing for Recovery, 100% of our people can attain and sustain sobriety. That's a fact. The second thing I want them to know is it's not always easy. In fact, sometimes it's the most difficult thing that they'll ever do. But when a choice to sustain sobriety is always made, betterment will ensue every single time. And people will grow from those struggles that they're enduring in sobriety. So I want people to know, again, that they can do it. I mean, that's our slogan. With sobriety, anything is possible. But I also want them to know that it takes time, it takes an effective support system, and it takes 100% consistent work in order to get the things that people deserve in recovery.
Wonderful. And also, and that really does tie into what we were talking about earlier, commitment, making that choice, as you stated. When that choice is made with a deep sense of commitment, the tools are there, the assistance is there. And I think that applies to just about any change we want to make in our life. When we make that choice with a deep sense of commitment, then everything just starts falling into place naturally.
Every single thing that I have in my life since April 15th of 1993, my completing my education, I have a master's degree in counseling, the wife and the beautiful 4 kids that I have, my home, the relationships with my family, the progress that Racing for Recovery has made, the Ironmans that I've done. Everything that I have done is based on one decision to stop using drugs, consistently remaining sober, putting the effort that it takes to remain sober, and by the grace of God, building a support system that has aided me, not enabled me, but has aided me into having the amazing life that I have today. And it's my life's purpose now is just to simply give this back.
And where can people find more information on you and your nonprofit?
I encourage people to visit our website, racingforrecovery.org. We have both of our movies are on there, both of our books. The listing of our 7 unique and cutting-edge support group meetings are on there, and they can get a hold of us through that website, again, racingforrecovery.org.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Todd, for being a guest on my show this week.
I'm honored. Thank you very much.
And thank you, listeners, for joining me here as well on Journey for Truth on iHeartRadio and YouTube. Until next time, have a fantastic week.